Hello and welcome everybody to another live episode of Ask a STEM Sister. I am Bendy Bayan.
And I'm Ami Bakare.
And we are delighted today to have our special guest, Dr. Brown is with us in the house. We are going to be talking today about STEM outreach. And you know, it's something that is near and dear to our hearts because that's why we started this channel. So it's a special treat to have her on. So before we get started, I just want to remind you to go ahead and hit subscribe. You're already here. Hit subscribe, hit like, and be sure to, watch the video, share it if you like, and comment if you want to ask a question or anything like that. So I will go ahead and introduce our guest and then bring her on. So Dr. Treva Brown is a physical scientist at the United States Naval Research Laboratory at NASA's Stennis Space Center. She's active in research and mentorship activities, advocating for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, in the local community where she spearheads initiatives aimed to improve diversity and inclusion within the sciences. For her efforts, Dr. Brown was awarded the 2020 Best Woman in STEM, recognizing her community impact in New Orleans and surrounding areas. It's one of our favorite cities. Furthermore, she is an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, where she co-leads the Global Impact Initiatives Committee and serves on professional boards for the National Organization of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers. I don't know, Michelle. The Louisiana local section of the American Chemical Society, and is chair of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Microscopy Society of America. Outside of the realm of science, Dr. Brown has a passion for dance, travel, unique cuisines, and holds a special place in her heart for mentoring youth. During her reign as Ms. Black Louisiana International Ambassador, Dr. Brown advocates for her platform, Yes You Can, aimed at encouraging youth and young adults to attain their goals, no matter the obstacles encountered along the way, especially in the STEM disciplines. To meet the new normal of virtual learning, Dr. Brown started and continues to host her own virtual science outreach series aimed at kids ages 4 and up. Her series, known as the Mini Science Series with Dr. B, shout out to another Dr. B, encourages kids to video in and do science activities with her. In a recent interview, Dr. Brown states, "Representation truly matters. It is my hope as a female African-American PhD scientist that interacting and immersing kids in fun learning STEM activities can plug leaks in the pipeline that leads to future involvement in STEM careers." Ladies and gentlemen, we are proud and happy and excited to introduce Dr. Brown.
Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Welcome.
I am glad to be here. Thank y'all so much for having me.
Oh, no problem. We are excited. Dr. B, I love other Dr. B. Okay. Well, I mean, as you all heard the impressive bio and all that Dr. Brown is doing, before we kind of get into that, we're actually gonna go back. And we want to talk a little bit about your journey and, how you kind of got here. So could you tell us a little bit about, high school and then, getting ready to go into undergrad and how you were able to decide your field of study and how you chose your major and institution?
Yeah, so definitely. So let me tell y'all, I did not know what I wanted to do in college, let alone as a career. I knew that I was going to college because my parents were like, "You going to school?" But that was like the extent of what I knew. So it actually took a physics teacher, I never forget, her name was Mrs. Kyle, and she told me about the STEM disciplines in high school. So I didn't even know what STEM disciplines were. I always joke that I honestly thought that like the STEM disciplines was studying stems of a plant. which I now know that's not what it is, but I didn't know anything about that back then. So, like initially starting out, the thing that I guess captivated me with the STEM disciplines was honestly the fact that they had money for minorities, and I fit the bill for two of those minorities, being female and being African American. So I was like, all right, I'll help my parents out, hopefully I can get this scholarship in STEM, and the rest will be history. So anyway, fast forward, when it came time for me to go to school, I always knew that I was going to Louisiana State University. So my hometown is Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And so, honestly, for us, all we know is Louisiana State University and Southern University. So I don't know, there's something about LSU stood out to me, and I chose LSU. So LSU actually offered a program for STEM disciplines, and it was actually led by an African-American chemist named Dr. Warner. So I think because this program was led by him, it was someone that looked like me. Of course he wasn't female, but he was African-American. So I was like, all right, let me try it. And because he's a chemist, I'll try chemistry too. So that was my reasoning at that point. And to be honest, I'm a very transparent person, because I feel like transparency is key to motivating the youth, because I know that others feel the same that I probably felt then. I honestly felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like, like all of these other students that was trying to get the scholarship, they were like, more intelligent than I was, because I was like, I didn't even know what I wanted to do. I was just trying. I was going for it, So went for a scholarship, didn't think I'd make it, because I was like, I don't think I'm smart enough. But I never forget the words of Dr. Warner, who was then and still is my mentor. And he said, there's something in you that reminds me of how I was at your age. And I'm like, whatever. Anyway, trying to wrap up this story a little bit. I chose chemistry, and now I can honestly say that chemistry chose me back, because I got into it, fell in love with it. I had amazing mentors, and mentors are definitely key. They were key in my success during school, during even going through undergrad, even through my graduate degree. And the rest is history. Ended up going to graduate school off of a Board of Regents fellowship. And again, I can't stress enough the importance of mentors, because there are so many times that a lot of my friends even know that I gave up. I packed my books, my bag, my house, and was like, I'm done. But it definitely takes a village, and I think that's why I'm sure we're going to get into this later in the talk, but I think that's why my heart was led to actually pouring back into the hearts of our youth, especially in the STEM disciplines.
Well, that is amazing, and honestly, that's a theme that we see amongst all the people that we usually interview, is that having that strong mentor or having that village, kind of like you said, is really important, and really encourages people to kind of stick with it. So that's a blessing that you were able to find that in those people around you. So my question stems from the question that I had asked you in our pre-talk, which in your bio, it says that you are a physical scientist. And so myself, coming from an IT-esque background, I don't know much about science. And so I'm curious, could you, explain again for our audience, what is a physical scientist? And then what does your day-to-day look like at work?
So definitely. So I always say that any term of science is the most elementary school version of any science is that we try to figure out problems, and we try to figure out those problems via whatever discipline of science that we're in. So for me, my background is actually in chemistry. So I try to figure out chemical processes of what might have happened to whatever it is that we're studying. So in relating that to being a physical scientist, I will honestly say it depends on who you ask, because physical science can range from the actual physics part of being a physical scientist, which means that you're dealing with equations and numbers and imaginary circles and imaginary boxes and all of that. As y'all can tell, I wasn't a great physics student, but it also can lead up to, you know, what I do, which is I study the physical properties of materials, and I do that via a number of means. Most close to my heart is microscopy. So I study a lot of physical processes of what's going on with materials via different types of microscopy measures. So to make that a little bit more elementary school, and to relate it to what I actually do at NRL, so I study a lot of metal materials, and what we are looking for with those metal materials are what makes metal degrade, what makes the metal corrode, what makes the metals have failures, and things of that nature. And so we know that there are organisms that are causing the metal degradation, because of course a lot of our studies happen in wet areas. Of course, you know, I work for the Naval Research Lab. So my job as a physical scientist is to study those physical properties of what's happening. So, you know, the physics of what I see with my naked eye, then using my microscopes to also see what we're seeing that's going on, and then deducing or figuring out from those analyses what's actually going on chemically to cause those metals to fail. So hopefully I didn't confuse anybody with that. And remind me of what the second part of your question was again.
It was, so that was a great answer. And then it was mostly just what does your day-to-day look like for anybody out there that also is interested in like science and they maybe are thinking of being a physical scientist? What does that look like at work?
Yeah, so okay, so I will also say that that is different depending on what area of science that you're in, and also what entity you're with, being whether it's academia, government such as myself, or industry. So for me, right now I'm working from home, so my day-to-day right now kind of looks like I answer emails and I read papers and I write papers all day pretty much, but when we are able to go back to a normal type of work setting, honestly, my day-to-day endeavors change daily. There is nothing that is the same, which is why I personally like just science in general. It is not a monotonous job at all. So most of the time it starts with me reading emails and checking to see what I have going on for the day. Sometimes that means I'll be in the lab all day doing various chemical experiments or what have you. Sometimes that means I'm sitting in my office all day and still reading papers and writing. So it just depends on just what's going on, and just the task that we have at hand. If we have anything that, you know, is very important that we kind of have to, what we call, get out the door in a timely fashion, or if it's just a regular, I think I'll study diesel fuel on metals and see what happens. So yeah, so it pretty much changes for me day to day.
Nice.
Wow. And you know, you kind of answered what I what I was going to ask too, is how it looks different now that we are you know, in a remote environment. Well, at least, you know, most of us. So yeah, I want to kind of pivot a little bit and ask you about, you know, we heard about your awards and, you know, you got titles. Let me read what that was again. You are, well, where was it? You're Miss Louisiana something. Oh, Miss Black Louisiana International Ambassador. Okay, I wanted to get it right. And so, you know, you're involved in all these different initiatives, mostly centered around including or increasing diversity and inclusion in the sciences. And so I'm really curious, you know, how you became so passionate about making this kind of community impact and were able to incorporate STEM and your love of science kind of into that outreach, and yeah, just how that started.
Yeah, so sure. So like I said, I was lost. I was a lost cause coming out of high school. I didn't know. I just I didn't know what to do, y'all. I was just like, all right, my mom and daddy said I gotta go to school. So let me just think of something, right? So I always joke and say that I was not as groomed as I am now. But I think because like I say, science chose me. Like I said, I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't even know what a PhD stood for. Like I knew that individuals would call themselves doctor this or doctor that, and I honestly thought like they were just medical doctors. I didn't know that you could be called Dr. B and just have a PhD. That kind of rhymes right there. So that was one of the things that I had to learn. And then also just trying to figure out just navigating college, for one, because of course I am a first generation college student, the only one so far in my entire family that has a PhD. So all of this was just really, really new to me. So my parents, of course, did what they could with what they knew in terms of like getting me tutors and things like that. But that was pretty much the extent of what they could offer me. So it really took people to take me under their wing and say, I always use the analogy of like someone holding a mirror in front of me and showing me what it is that I could be. And I think without those mentors, I wouldn't have seen that. Like, I think I would have just still been like, I'm not good enough. Like, I'm not smart enough to do this. So I think the input and the care and the constant motivation from not only the mentors that I had at school, but also my community around me saying that, like you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing, coming from, for anybody that might be listening from Louisiana, coming from the 70805 neighborhood, like, there's not much expected from kids that come from that area. So just being, that constant motivation. And so I think it didn't hit me until graduate school. We had a graduate chemical society, which is just a group of graduate students that get together and we do different things around school. And we would also go out into high schools and elementary schools and just other outreach events. And it was there, now that I'm actually talking it out, it was doing those outreach events with my grad school colleagues that I learned that I actually loved the outreach. It was just something about, like kids when they see, like a reaction happen, like the most popular one right now is volcano eruptions. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, like, and it's like, I don't know, it would just do something to my heart and I would get like this tingly feeling. And I'm like, okay, like something's here, something's churning. And it just really like took off from there. And what really did it, like one of my good friends that I met along my journey, like one day I was just kind of feeling down and just kind of out of it about like everything that I had going on, because in grad school it's so much that you got to deal with. You got to see the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So in grad school, there's a lot you got to deal with, especially when you're pretty much the only one that looks like you in the program. So it was just one of those times that I just really needed a good pep talk. And I'll never forget what she told me. And she asked me, she said, what is your why? And I'm like, my why? Like, what do you mean? And she's like, what motivates you to get out of bed every day, go to that school and do the research that you do to ultimately get your PhD? And it had me so puzzled because I was like, I don't get it. Like, what do you mean? What is my why? And so it took me a minute. Like, she challenged me to think about that. And I did. I thought about it. And what I came up with from just remembering the different just interactions that I've had in doing my outreach was this little Black girl. It was an outreach event. I'll never forget it, at Keeley Elementary School in New Orleans, Louisiana. We were doing the outreach event, and look, I love being me. I pride myself on telling people live bold, be fabulous, do
Yes.
Be fabulous.
so
Yes.
I love my bling nails. I love getting my hair done. I love living out loud because that's just me.
Yes.
So with that being said, I have my favorite color is pink. So I have pink goggles, a white lab coat with my name on it in pink Coach loafer. Like I'm telling y'all, I thought I was
Yes.
okay. So this little girl, I'll never forget. I was running an experiment. I don't remember which one, but she walks up to me and she like reaches up her hand to me. So I reached for her hand thinking she's just like, oh, hey, how you doing? And so she snatches her hand away and then she reaches it again. And so I'm like, well, I don't get it. You don't want me to hold your hand? Like, what's going on? And so she's like reaching. And so I bend down to her level and she touches me like right here on my chin. And she kind of like steps back and she's like, I've never seen a scientist that looks like me. And I was like, wait, what? So like now, like I said, like when my friend asked me that question about my why, like I remembered that moment and I was like, what if there's other young girls, or not even just young girls, but just other young kids that are out there that they really aren't seeing that representation. And then when they see us out in the field, they're like, oh my goodness, like I've met a real live scientist. Like I still get that. Like I just got that from a kid not too long ago. And he's like, oh my God, I'm like so excited I get to meet a real live scientist. So that little girl became my why. So the reason why I do it is because of her, because of other little brown girls like her, other little brown girls that are like me, just other little kids that are just like, they don't get the opportunities. And I know coming from the neighborhood that I come from, we didn't get those opportunities. Like if it wasn't for our parents pouring into us, we probably wouldn't have gotten it. So I do realize and understand it takes a lot from the parents, but what can we do in our individual respective fields to reach back out to those kids who don't necessarily have parents to push them? So, long story short, because I could talk about this all day, that's definitely, like how I got into the outreach and mentoring and how everything that like has come about in terms of opportunities. Like I really funnel all of my energy into just giving back to the community through STEM outreach by any means necessary.
Wow. Well, I had one little tear come to my eye when you told this story because it's touching because I think you think at one point we were that little girl.
Exactly.
So it just really, really touching, to see another, like you said, young brown girl who's just trying to see herself in someone. And so almost shocked to see you. And in turn, she sees herself. So that is super awesome. Super awesome. Thank you for sharing your story. I did want to ask about you forming your little series.
Yes.
We also formed our series out of the, pandemic. And so just curious to hear about how that came about as well.
Yeah, so definitely. So I always wanted to do something to give back to kids. Like originally my dream started as, and who knows, it still could be my dream. And I've always wanted like an after school STEAM camp because I also love to dance. I actually got a minor in dance. So I love.
We just started dancing.
We were like, no music or nothing.
So like people that know me, I also teach Zumba fitness. So I don't know. I got too much energy, y'all. And
I feel like this is like the third STEM system.
Yeah, that
like teaches Zumba.
Yes.
We're missing out on something.
Y'all missing out. Y'all need to come over and join us in teaching something, some kind of dance, something.
We'll get there.
But so dance has always been like a love of mine since a little kid. I'll never forget my mom. She immersed me in every single art that you can imagine, and the only thing that I stuck with was dance. Now I'm thankful to my mom for put me in all those drama classes and music classes, but dance is my thing. So anyway, I'm a big proponent of, yeah, it's great to focus on, like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, but, you also need to be fully grounded and have something else that you're passionate about that works both sides of that brain, right? So anyway, I used to want, probably still do, I don't know, I'm a dreamer, I'm still a dreamer. I wanted my own after school type camp set up. But when I was stuck at the house, ever since March 17th of 2020, like it was yesterday. I was talking my friend's head off about doing something that mattered because I missed doing my outreach, because I was always going out to various places doing my STEM outreach with kids. And I was just like, I just feel like it's something I could do, but I just don't know what. And so it's like, you should try just like, and she's a teacher. So this is how we came up with this. She's like, well, what about if you just like did some science stuff like through Zoom? And I'm like, So of course her daughter was my guinea pig, and we tried an experiment together. And y'all, when I tell y'all, I had all kinds of hiccups because I am not a technology person whatsoever outside of technology of my scientific instruments. I tried doing lives, I tried doing all kind of watch parties, and then that's how I learned that I didn't have enough bandwidth or data or whatever you call it with the internet to do what I needed to do, because it was always crashing and it was a lot. But I was seeing the impact that I was having on the few kids that I did have up until that point. And I would always purposely like, look, I'm trying something new. I'm trying to figure it out. Apparently God has a plan and I'm going with it. Yeah. And so just through different interactions, I got involved in a networking group in the area that I live in. And just through different interactions, I started pre-recording these different little shows. And so then one of my other friends that works with me, she said, well, how about you make it like a show, like a series? And I'm like, So I immediately thought about Magic School Bus. I don't know if y'all remember Magic School Bus. Yeah, we had to learn about all these different things, right? So I was like, I might be onto something here. So I will say that, like my little mini chemist series has definitely evolved. It used to just be like, you look, call in, we're going to pre-record this, I'm going to edit it, and then I'm going to put it out there on social media. But then two friends that I met through networking, they were like, look, you got something going on. My child loves this show called Blippi or something. I don't have kids, so I don't know. But apparently Blippi does like different things, I think, around science. But anyway, Blippi, like, he have like stuff that you could dress up in. They know like these little jingles and songs. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be the African American female version of Blippi just for STEM. So we are in the works of doing that. Hopefully, I don't know. Hopefully this interview can bring some people my way to help me bring this full circle. But, right now I do have a person helping me on the production side of things. I have a social psychologist that's helping me make the science stuff, kid friendly. It's a work in progress, but like I say, it's been nothing but positive feedback. And hopefully this can be a thing and we can get it out there, and I'll be the next Blippi, but I'll be Dr. B, Dr. B Science Adventures, which is what I started calling it. So it's now called Dr. B Science Adventures because now we want to incorporate more than just chemistry, of course, especially if we see it going into like a, hopefully like the next Nickelodeon or Disney or PBS or whatever, I'm manifesting it and putting it out there. I turned 33 on Thursday, and so 33 on the 3rd, moving in London. So that's what we're going to do.
Well, happy early birthday, Gemini.
Happy early birthday. Yes, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and like telling us about your background and all about your STEM outreach. It's definitely inspiring. That story was very, very, very touching. And I know that we all have like interactions like that. And that's kind of what fuels the need for platforms like this. And
Definitely.
so we're really hoping and like wishing you the best with your endeavors. And if you could just tell us, like, where can we follow you? Where do you want people to connect with you? Where can we learn more about your new series? That'd be awesome. Just let us know. Where can we find out?
Yes, so it's always a tough thing for me, but if you follow, I think you all found me on Instagram or I found y'all on Instagram. I don't know how it happened, but Instagram, diva underscore Treva, so DIVA underscore TREVA. And I always just tell people, and I hate to sound like I'm a personable person, but I hate to just say this, but I have to say it. If you just Google Treva Brown, I will probably pop up and you can catch me that way.
Listen,
Fair enough.
it's easy and it's true. We thank you again, everybody. Going ahead and follow Dr. Brown on her social media platforms. And as we see her platform developing, we will definitely be keeping you all posted on our page so that we can follow up with her. So thank you again, Dr. Brown, for joining us. It's been wonderful.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
As always, guys, we want to thank you for joining us for another episode of Ask a STEM Sister. If you've made it this far in the episode, go ahead and hit like, and go ahead and subscribe and share this video. If you know anybody who would be interested in hearing more about what Dr. Brown has to say. And at this point, we are going to bid you farewell until our next video.
All right, guys.
All right. See you later.
Bye.